Good evening and welcome to the Nuvee Club podcast. Me and Sanjay, we're just two guys. We like talking about movies, we like watching movies, but this is not only a discussion about that. It's much, much more. A Big Mike company from Long Island, Sanjay Singh from New York City. Sanjay, how are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the live program, everyone.
You know what's funny? I watched that, and aside from being stupefied and just in complete awe of your filming talents, why we are not on an Oscar stage soon, I don't know. Uh,
Biggest question.
I feel like I don't like, and this is it's a very strange thing, but I don't like when my name is typed out in all caps. Is that like an aesthetic thing to you? Do you even pay any attention to that? I always like, capital B I G, capital M I K E, and capital S.
I actually do pay attention to the caps. I like the all caps look.
You like the all caps look?
I like the all caps look.
The names underneath the thing, yeah, and
Well,
that's
only for like concise pieces of text. If it's like an entire paragraph, no, don't do the whole all caps thing. Then it looks like you're screaming something.
okay. But if you love all caps so much, why do you do it on the intro to the Nuvee Club podcast video? Why do you do it in the bottom left corners of the Nuvee Club podcast video feed? But
Because there's short pieces of text.
hold on, let me. Can I finish my story here? But nukhu, this thing that you pour your lifeblood, sweat, and tears into, everything that encompasses who you are, who you were, who you will be. Nukhu, the logo, which will be on T-shirts that people wear on the moon someday. Why is that all lowercase letters? Explain that.
Because sometimes I do like all lowercase.
Okay, because that's his name. He likes all lowercase. All right.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll mix it up. Sometimes I'll have a capital letter in the beginning. Sometimes I won't. But rarely do I have a capital letter in the middle of a word. That's a little unorthodox.
What? That's not the way the logo is. What the hell are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. That's
That's
one
what
case
I'd
scenario.
like to know about it.
That's one case scenario where I draw the line.
That's what I'm saying. Don't you know what I'm talking about? All right, what kind of week has it been, Sanjay?
Another busy week, but fun week. Monday we had a color session for the Adidas commercial, so that was great. It's really amazing to watch, life just come into the footage.
What's a color session again, for those of us who don't know? I mean, I know, but for everybody else.
So color session, it's when you take a picture locked or a final lock cut of your project, your video, and it's if you're shooting with a high resolution camera,
As you do.
usually shooting in a RAW format. Or
Uh-huh.
a log format that just captures kind of all of the spectrum of color. It only it only displays in a very flat looking image. So what you do is you go to a professional colorist, or you do it yourself if you have that luxury of that kind of equipment, and you sit down in kind of like a movie theater environment, and shot by shot you go and you essentially recolor every single shot. And it's amazing what you can do because of the raw flexibility of the footage. You can change things. You can essentially change the lighting setups to somewhat a great degree and alter how the scene, what's prominent in the scene, just with the color session.
I remember that because we shot in one of your projects, we shot on the beach in the middle of the night, and you were able to lighten it up and make it look much brighter than it actually was when we shot. That was the first time I had ever seen anything like that.
Oh yeah. And we were using a pretty bad camera then, so it introduced a lot of grain. But now you can, you can push the footage and there won't be any kind of grain or digital noise or anything like that.
Yes. Technology.
And then yesterday was Lachelle's birthday, so we did some birthday stuff.
Happy birthday, Lachelle.
Happy birthday, Lachelle.
How old is she now? She doesn't want the world to know. It's okay. We don't.
She doesn't want the world to know.
All right.
She is.
Is she there with you right now?
Lively and young, yeah. And tomorrow she's hosting an event at Chashma Gallery in Midtown, where she's expecting 180 people. So
What's the event?
It's a networking event. Essentially, she just wants to create a space where creatives can meet, share their work, and it's in a space that's hosted by one of her friends' art galleries. It's all kind of
art gallery.
It's all kind of a filmic type of community, yeah.
I'm picturing it's a gathering, lots of people. They're dressed nice. There's not a lot of places to sit down. Everybody's kind of standing up at tables. That's what I'm feeling. And that leads me to this question. All right, artsy fartsy type people, good looking, dressed very nice in Manhattan, which I hate. Had to stand all the time. Lots of walking. I can't imagine why I wasn't invited to this event. It seems like everything is up my alley. Bullet point for bullet point. That's my idea of heaven. Not
You were one of
really.
the first person. We were one of the first people that we thought of, and but really we were like,
We need younger. We need faster. We need smarter people. Ultimately, no, I'm just touching. Like, I think I would do very well in a setting like that. I think that I do interact with the people. I'm not saying I enjoy it all the time, but it sounds like something worthwhile for the people that are interested in that sort of thing. Where is it happening again?
at Chashima Gallery on 6th Avenue and Foot Street in Midtown. Come stop by. Even if you're Big Mike, if you can make it out to the city, come through.
Absolutely.
You can certainly work a room.
Well, I try. As for me, nothing big this week. Everything was basically canceled by rain. We've had April showers. April started, and everything big that we were working on all has been rescheduled, postponed, or canceled as a result of rain. So the next thing that I have coming up is I'm still working on that grill video thing for that client. Tuesday, we have another shoot if the weather holds out. That's the next step for me. But other than that, everything's been postponed by rain.
That sucks, man. Yeah, the weather's been a little teasing us lately. As we had a couple nice days, almost late spring type of days, and now back to winter.
Indeed. And you forgot to talk about, you launched your scavenger hunt, right?
Scavenger hunt, yeah. So the scavenger hunt just went live. I am giving away a week's worth of my time and access to all of my equipment, which totals over $100,000, to up to 3 special creators, businesses that want to make a commercial, a short film, music video, whatever you can shoot in a week's worth of time, for completing 5 tasks in a nukhu scavenger hunt.
5 tasks in a nukhu scavenger hunt. Do you have to sign up to find out what these tasks are, or can you share them here?
I can share them here. Yeah, you don't have to sign up. You can click on an open link to view all the rules and how to participate. The first is you have to create a nukhu account, and you have to buy $10 worth of new points and watch one Nuvee. A Nuvee is at minimum 10 cents, but some are a couple dollars. And then you have to post the name of that Nuvee on the Nuvee Club pinned post, and then you have to create a Nuvee Club account. That's a separate account, and then post your film proposal on the Nuvee Club.
Gotcha. So if you accomplish all those tasks, and then based on the merit of your proposal, that's how, because it's a contest.
It's a competition, yeah. So essentially we'll be looking at the quality of the submissions, how well they were put together, are there additional elements to it, did the people create like a profile on the Nuvee Club, do they have a past work experience? Why should this project be created? Why should we bring this project to life? Anything to help basically prove why this project should be made will help advocate for your selection.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So where can people find out more information about it?
You can find out about it at nuvee.club/hunt or on the Nuvee Club Instagram account.
Nuvee Club Instagram account. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Speaking about Nuvees and projects and so forth, you highlighted Risen, which I actually went and I started watching it. I couldn't finish it in time for this episode. But why did you pick Risen as your Nuvee spotlight for this week?
So I've been focusing on exclusives. Risen is another exclusive project only on nukhu. And I met the producer of this project, Pete Ireland, at an event 2 years ago, where he was showing the pilot, and I approached him afterwards and asked him if he secured any distribution. He said that they hadn't, so we decided to work together. And he was telling me a little bit about the project, and it's a really fascinating story about how they created this sci-fi pilot. They received $100,000 from the Australian government to essentially produce the sci-fi pilot and write the book for the first season of the show. So the goal is for the Australian government to have a stronger film studio community, and these were some select Australian talent that were highlighted in the project.
See, so when I read the synopsis and then I looked on IMDb and I learned a little bit about the background of the story, but I didn't know much about where it was filmed. I kind of like one of the producers, it states that this was the Australian screen something producer, and that led me down a rabbit hole because that producer has been involved with some serious projects. I didn't read much about Pete Ireland, but I think it was one of the other guys who actually worked on a couple movies that I've seen, one with Robert De Niro called Everybody's Fine. But so when I started watching it, I feel like I needed a little bit of a handbook of what it's like to live in the area that they're talking about, because if you read the synopsis, it says that the kid struggles through the drug culture of the West, and obviously being in America, I read what that is. And I didn't get too far into the movie, but I assume it doesn't take place in America. It takes place in Australia, correct?
It takes place in Australia, but also in kind of like this futuristic dystopian world. There's a lot of world building going on in the pilot, and it focuses in an environment where there's this drug that's taken everyone by storm. And when you take the drug, it actually physically makes you levitate. So you have to essentially tie yourself down to the ground so that you don't just float away into sky and die. But what happens is after these people finish their high, they fall down and they die anyway.
Okay. I hope you're not giving away a big plot point there.
No.
Because I am going to finish it. No. But it looked interesting, for sure.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is how is the kind of economics and the kind of dynamics it creates amongst people when there are people that will essentially sell whatever to get access to this kind of drug, and then the people that kind of facilitate that world.
Gotcha. Well, I'm looking forward to finishing it. Is that why you ended up the topic you wanted to discuss about communities for work and how there's no licensing deals for pilots, and so a lot of filmmakers can't do that? Is that what let you here? Is digging up Risen?
Yeah. It's been interesting talking about creating content. I had a conversation with a filmmaker earlier today who was talking about a pilot that he produced in 2019. They produced a 5-episode web series, 10 minutes each, for $50,000. They were able to raise this money. They screened it at the Tribeca Film Festival, and they were able to secure distribution with a small distributor, but they weren't able to really raise enough money to recoup the costs. But you can't take away from the fact that they actually got distribution. And now that filmmakers is saying that those kind of deals are even less and less available. The studios really aren't giving out or buying, small web series or projects like that. And the funding for those kinds of projects is kind of dried up as well. So what's interesting is, like, we were talking about a trend that we've been seeing. And that trend is like celebrities have been using their notoriety to try to help or try to create incubators for up-and-coming talent. We're seeing that with like Emma Stone's production company, with Robert Rodriguez Horror Studio, and Tyler Perry's Dream Collective. These are like recent examples of celebrities that are essentially saying, hey, if you have an idea, come pitch it to us, and if we like it, we'll help you produce it, and because we're attached to it, we'll make sure it looks great, and we'll help you find distribution. Essentially kind of filling that gap between where the distributors and the studios are kind of missing right now.
So when famous people do that sort of thing, is that ultimately a good thing for the industry or a bad thing for the industry?
I think it's a good thing, especially when they follow through, because they're creating more access, they're creating more opportunities, and that is always a good thing in the industry when it's so competitive and so saturated. I think when that becomes not a good thing is when there are a certain type of people that maybe are pseudo-famous, or they have proximity to that kind of person or celebrity, and they wanna promise access to that. They want to promise a certain level of success for like an upfront fee or something like that. When you get into that kind of territory, really borders, it's taking advantage of people that are really just trying to figure out and learn how to be successful. I think there's a fine line between mentoring and teaching and charging a fee for that, and then charging like an exorbitant fee for like promised access. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does make sense. And I feel like I remember years ago, I had gone to a concert, and there was a band I really liked, and I got there early enough to watch the opening band. And this has never really happened to me before, or since, but the opening band was really, really, really good. Very, very good. All of their songs, even though I had never heard them before, they by the middle of the song you're kind of like into it and you're almost singing along because the way that they wrote songs was so creative and well done. And they weren't opening for the hottest band in the world. They weren't opening in Madison Square Garden. This was just a House of Blues in Orlando, but it was still significant. And the band they were opening for had radio hits, and they were doing shows, and they still tour to today. And that band never went anywhere. The opening band never went anywhere. Basically, I might be the only person that ever like listens to them. I still have their songs. I bought their CD at the show, and I feel like that's an important thing to understand if you're getting into these fields like video production, commercials, shorts, movies, whatever, or music, and you want to write songs, you want to be a singer. Like, it's not only about being great, it's also about having that luck. And I think that the people you're talking about that prey on, I think that's exactly the kind of band that would have fallen victim to someone who comes along and says, I can promise you success for a fee. And I bet you right now that because they ultimately, now it's the end of the show, they're not, that was 25 years ago. They probably wonder, should I have paid that fee? Should I have paid that guy? So I don't think anybody can pay for what people are really looking for when it comes to success. And sometimes even if you deserve success and it's warranted and the quality of your work is great, sometimes it still doesn't happen.
I agree. I agree. People aspire to be, something glamorous or the image of success rather than maybe do the work. But there are no shortcuts. You really just have to do the work. And often the work is not glamorous. Like, it's tedious and it doesn't always lead to where you think it would lead. And that kind of predatory behavior you're talking about is just, it's gross, man. It's like, there's not enough transparency in the system, and anyone that wants to get noticed really just they just need to do the work. They just need to create. They need to put themselves out there.
But even if you do the work, that doesn't necessarily mean, especially in the fields that we're talking about, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out. A plus B does not equal C when it comes to, I want to be a famous movie maker. I want to be a famous actor. I want to be a famous musician. It's just not. It's not like you're talking about a trade. I want to be a plumber. I want to be a plumber. I want to be a mechanic. I will study. And even though, there's talents in every field. There's talented plumbers. There's talented mechanics. There's talented people that work behind the scenes in production. There's talented people that work in store management. There's talented people that work in produce management or restaurant business. But you're talking about trying to get into a field that, if you really know the percentage of the people that tried versus the people that actually make a great, and it's not like a lot of people, I think, if they get into this sort of thing, they're not saying, a lot of people, if they say they want to get into this, they want to get entertainment, they want to get into this, they want to get into entertainment, they want to get into producing movies or music or whatever. And if you ask them, well, what would you consider being successful? They'll probably answer George Clooney or, Dwayne Johnson, that level. And you're like, that's a very, very, very small, minuscule percentage of people that actually attain those levels. Most of them that even become successful, they could pay their bills by their art. They could be an actor and they could pay their bills, but they still have bills to pay and rent, and money's a struggle. But they're doing it in their art and they're not doing it working another job. And for a lot of people, that's not enough. A lot of people, if you made that deal, yes, you're going to have, by the time your career's over, you're going to have 250 titles under your belt. You're going to be in various episodes of television shows. You'll be an actor, character roles in some movies. But when you go walking down the street, very few people are going to go, oh, that's the guy from The Thing. And you're not going to have a yacht or, a villa in France or a string of Peloponnese. You won't have it. And a lot of people won't sign on for it.
I hear you. It's there's definitely a unrealistic expectation of what this industry is, and I think especially now for a lot of struggling creators, it just seems like just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, and it's tough. It's really tough, with so many tools being accessible, the democratization of access to technology. you ask yourself, is it worth doing it at all? It's like I've seen so many people that I've been following over the years on social media who, maybe they just posted a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 or so followers, just posting videos regularly about the work that they do. Now they're starting like to build their own thing as a way to try to empower themselves or uplift themselves. And, that's taking the shape of like podcasts or like Substack newsletters or even these kind of group chats that happen on Instagram or whatever. And now they're like celebrity streaming services or Patreons or whatever. So like, it seems like everybody's trying to build their own community, and no one really wants to join an existing community. Like,
no, because everybody wants to have their own thing. Absolutely. And I empathize with that approach because, you're out here doing what you do, and you say to yourself, all right, but I saw this other thing. It's a TikTok account where all it is old wrestling documentaries uploaded in 3-minute segments, and it's got 655,000 followers. And you go, but what's happening with, like, is that person whoever's doing that, is they making money? And like, then you say, well, do I even want to do that? No. Like, I don't want to. I mean, you say to yourself, oh, well, if they're making a lot of money, they're getting checks every month or every week from TikTok in, $20,000 check here or 30,000, whatever it is. Then you say, of course, yeah, would I do that? But that's not why you're doing what you're doing. So I don't really get any of it. I don't really understand what's behind that person doing that. I don't get it.
It still seems like that's elating too. Like, that there's, going back to this kind of theme we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, like in content discovery. There's like this thing, right, where discovery is a big issue, and how we find new content, new entertainment. And these algorithms have gotten very good at predicting discovery, or like, using our previous, what we've seen to kind of give us.
I got to ask you. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to ask you. Yeah. You just finish. You tell it.
But it gives you what you expect, what you want to see, another recommendation. But then all of a sudden, like, it just keeps serving you that, right? So you're like, is there a point where you just get bored of the recommendation? You're like, nah, mix it up. I want to see something new, something dynamic. And how is that experience different for every single person? The frequency to how much they want to be recommended what they like versus the frequency to how much they want to be recommended something that's unique and new, and how do you automate that and scale that for everybody? Like, it just seems like such a convoluted thing to try to scale.
It's an excellent question, because as it happened, I mean, obviously there's two of us here talking, and we both know exactly what we're talking about, and anybody that's listening knows exactly what we're talking about, where all of a sudden you just keep getting fed the same kind of thing over and over again. I'm saying, I know I don't like it. I get very frustrated, and I wish there was a button that would go, I don't want to see this anymore. And I feel like sometimes on TikTok, at the bottom it'll say, I'm interested, I'm not interested, which obviously is part of their way that they're obtaining information maybe. But like, then there's other things that I see on there. I get served this picture of this guy talking, and I don't want to see it anymore, but I keep getting it all the freaking time. And there's no way to turn it off. But I got excited when you were talking, because one of the things I typed in discussions was, are the algorithms, I can draw a direct line to toilet's overflowing, so I need to get a plunger. So I go to the hardware store. I go to the hardware store's website. I type in plunger, and then for 3 weeks, all I'm getting is ads for plungers. Meanwhile, I bought my plunger. I don't need another plunger. I'm probably not going to need another plunger for 20 years. But now I'm getting only plungers being sent to me. But, and that makes sense to that. I can even make sense of, I go to the hardware store, I buy the plunger, and I also buy drain cleaner. And because, now I didn't search drain cleaner on the internet, but because I used my credit card to pay for the drain cleaner, somehow the internet knows that I bought drain cleaner, and now I'm getting plungers and drain cleaner. I could even draw a line to that. But weird things have been happening for too long, where obviously we're talking about something, and then you start getting fed ads about it. All right, so it's listening. It's definitely listening. It's all listening. And they hear the key term. He said something about that. Okay, now we're going to, okay. And while I don't like that, I don't think that's good. I think that's very bad. Well, we all sign up for it. We all want to be able to talk to our devices in our house.
We'll be complacent to it for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. But, I mean, it's a very bad thing. I think it's very bad. Something else, for an example, let me just tell you a quick example. I watched a documentary on Disney Plus. I was watching Disney Plus. On like the 7th episode of this documentary, they start talking about something. And now I get fed. I've never been fed ads for it before, or social media, TikToks about it before. And now, and it didn't happen immediately. It happened like a week later. I was watching the Disney Imagineering documentary set. In the 7th episode, they talk about one of the parks in Tokyo Disney Sea. All right. But for the week, I thought, I was like, I think I'd want to go see that. Like, that seems like something I would want to go see. Just thinking it. Not talking about it, not posting about it, not searching about it, just thinking about it. And then one day, come with me to Disney Sea. I got hundreds of Tokyo Disney Sea's videos. So, like, I'm asking, do you really think the algorithms are reading our minds?
No, I don't think that.
How can you be sure? No, I see lots of stories where they have devices they could put on somebody's head, and they're thinking, and like I've seen it. It's a thing. You put the device in your head. So how far is it really from that just happening? And instead of a device in your head, it's what's in your pocket.
No, I think that's close for sure, and that's definitely plausible in the future. But for right now, I mean, I think that a lot of these companies have gotten very good at predictive behavior based off of all these little clues that you're talking about, like listening to the episode you're watching, or how many times you frequent a specific place or destination. You're at Disney, you actually go to Disney World, so that's part of your geolocation history. That's part of kind of the breadcrumbs that they have on you. And so if Disney is serving ads, you're like one of their top best likely audience members to be served.
You know what? It's possible when you said that. It's possible that while on Google Maps, not typing in Tokyo Disney Sea or Disneyland, I think I was just on the map and I scrolled over to that part of the map. I could have gone over Tokyo Disney and like zoomed into it, and maybe that was enough.
That's enough.
And it told TikTok, which I guess isn't supposed to be listening. I don't know, but
those coordinates, man, every time you interact with Google Maps, it's changing the coordinates that you're looking at. So all of that stuff is getting fed into the Google system.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You didn't write in a favorite film recommendation here as we get towards the end of our episode, but I do have one. I saw a movie on Saturday called The Luckiest Man in America. Crazy story, though. So I wasn't going to go see it. It was playing only at really one theater in the area, but I was looking for a movie to see, and I had seen everything about in my normal theater. And I wasn't going to, all right, I saw the title. I was like, all right, that looks stupid. But then I read the synopsis, and it turns out I already knew the story. It's a movie, a dramatized telling of a real thing that happened, where this guy went on a game show, and he basically beat the game. He had spent months preparing to be on the show, and he figured out the pattern of the electronic board. It was called Press Your Luck. So Press Your Luck was a game show. It's actually, I think it might even have it's back with Michael Strahan as the host on ABC. But the villain in the game is the whammy. So if you land on a whammy, you lose all your money. But you also have a chance to win money by this electronic board. And this one player, now, had to be a genius or a crazy person genius, because by watching the show enough, he figured out the patterns. He memorized them. And then he got himself onto the show. And he knew that when this square blinks, because of the pattern, I know the next spot it's going on is never going to be a whammy. So he hit the button. And the guy kept winning and winning and winning. Now, the dramatized movie was good, but it tells you up front that they changed some of the story for the movie. But there's a documentary about this that was run on the Game Show Network. A documentary about the Press Your Luck scandal, which I think was better than the dramatized movie I saw this Saturday. But it's an amazing story, and I know it well because I remember being a little kid and watching that show with my father, and one day my father says, a couple of years ago, there was a guy that beat the game. What? He's like, yeah, he just kept winning and winning and winning, and they had to go to another episode, and the guy, he ended up winning over $100,000, which this was like 83, 84. That was 3 times more than anybody's ever won on any game show.
That's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, it is. So I would recommend if you're going to consume this story anywhere, I would get the Game Show Network documentary about it because it's really interesting.
Nice.
Or if you're looking for something to see in the theater, it is a good distraction. The Luckiest Man in America. I thought it was great.
Definitely. We'll check it out. Luckiest Man in America sounds like a good one. Reminds me of a quiz show like that. I like that movie too. That was a good one.
That was, yeah, Ralph Fiennes.
So, favorite movie of the week. I haven't been watching too many, but I'm going to pull Heat of the Night, starring Sidney Poitier. Have you seen this one?
I have not. There was a TV show, and I don't know if it was based off of that. But I remember. Oh yeah, so I did watch the TV show. Sidney Poitier wasn't in it, but I did watch the show. Archie Bunker ended up being in it, and Ricky Schroeder were in the Heat of the Night.
You know, it's funny, the chief, you know, he's got a very Archie Bunker character, very Archie Bunker personality.
In the movie you saw?
In the movie, yeah, in the movie. He plays the chief of a police station in Mississippi.
Yeah, and then, so, what's his name? Carroll. He played that role in the TV show.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So, yeah, that was a good movie. African-American Philadelphia police detective who is arrested on suspicion of murder by a racist police chief in Mississippi, proves his own innocence, and joins forces with the chief to track down the real killer. So I really liked a good mystery film, and this one it really captured the time period well, you know, especially at a time when black people were starting to get taken more seriously and respected on screen. So I enjoyed Sidney's performance. Really stoic.
Well, it's funny because I remember being a kid watching the TV show and seeing ads for the movie come on and then being like, well, you know, oh, is that connected? But I never watched the movie, but I think I'll add it to the list.
Nice.
Any parting words before we head out?
We were talking about, I saw you put on the list, you want to talk about the stock market.
Well, the stock market changed dramatically today. So the thing I have to say about the stock market is I know nothing about anything, and for most of my life I never really had any investments, but since my father died I do have investments. So I wonder what you think. I wonder how many people in the country have money in the market. Therefore, even if you have money in the market, I don't really know if that means, oh, well, you know what all this means. You know the consequences. I think more people, the majority of people, they fall into the category of, I don't have money in the market. I just go and buy goods and services in my community. And if things are going to be more expensive, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, I think that's most people. I mean, the stock market seems like a big game for institutional funds. And if anything, you know, the changes of the stock market seems like a shifting strategy from kind of short-term performance to long-term performance, long-term predictions on what's going to happen, just to kind of mitigate whatever changes are going to happen in the short term because of these tariffs. But
well, now there's the change. I mean, you know, I'm just an idiot, but it looks like a bunch of tariffs were announced. Stock market really went down, and then today he said, "Whoop, we're not doing that," and the stock market shot up. Now, I think
not completely back up.
Not completely back up, but I think that. So the stock market is higher today than it was yesterday, and higher than it was the day before, and higher than it was a week ago. It's not as high as it was before this all started. I don't know enough about it to really know, but in my limited understanding, what I would say is, hey, just a quick question. Can we figure out who benefited the most from this, the last, I'll say, month? Because wouldn't you say, we got to put an eye on that person because, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like something
smart enough. I think if you're smart enough to know the answer, you're smart enough to be the one that benefit.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're smart enough to create a system to track who's benefiting because of these changes, you're also smart enough to invest at the right time along with those moves and follow those moves.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about things that aren't. It's not like things happen and then things didn't happen, and that it's not like something happened and the market did this. Then something else happened, and the market did that. And then something else happened, and then the market did this. We're saying that one person said something, and the market did this. And the same person then said something else, and the market did that. And then the same person said something else, and the market did this. I'm just saying that's different from a cargo ship gets stuck in the Straits of Gibraltar, so now world trade is disrupted. You know what I mean? Like, that's different.
But the person who's, I mean, we've seen cases like this before, whether it's a world leader or whether it's a person that's a significant person at a company. Those kinds of opinions do matter. It's not like just some.
Yeah, they matter. They matter. They matter. I'm just saying. We've seen things like this before,
Yeah.
but also because of one utterance, the stock market today had its best day in the last 16 years.
No, I think you're onto something for sure. I definitely think there's a higher prevalence of individuals coming out and influencing the stock market, and whether or not they share what they're going to do with an exclusive group of people before they go out and do that is something that I have no idea about, but I wouldn't deny that it's happening.
Yeah, it almost seems like there should be some sort of laws in place to prevent that sort of thing from happening.
Or some kind of regulatory.
Some sort of a committee. If there was some sort of committee. Commission.
Yeah.
That did that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just hope that, I want to be able to not, I just want to be able to, pay my bills and have a life.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. People definitely talk about the stock market, but I think other than the stock market, at least for people in our space, or we kind of navigate a little more on social currency, I think that there's kind of a deficit of social stock right now. Social stock is kind of down. All the popular people I know, they don't really seem popular anymore. It kind of seems like tides are shifting online. Numbers are not necessarily organic. Everything kind of seems manipulated.
Yes, I would have to agree with that. So I don't really know what that ultimately means, because essentially you're telling me that, all right, so someone's going to invest something in getting more views. I mean, isn't what's different? How is that different from spending $7 million for a 30-second ad at the Super Bowl? I mean, why do you spend that $7 million?
What I really think is it's not necessarily people investing as much as the platforms doing the manipulation and the investing. Because we've seen this recent trend of platforms paying creators and investing in creators directly. And I think as a means of protecting their investment, I think that these platforms are actually leveraging those creators' accounts and boosting them because they have a financial incentive to make sure that they exceed.
You might be right. Yeah, I think you're most likely right. And I think the problem is, while that might be upsetting to people, for the most part, everybody that's not in that select group, their mission is not to change it or fix it or break it. They want to be part of that group. That's it. Like, if they were part of that group, they'd be like, all right, well, I'm getting mine now. So that's...
Or they want to build their own community now.
Yeah.
And
because
it's
want it to be sustainable.
It's weird because, it's like there's this regression in, social acuity, too. Like, just... And the willingness to be social just for the sake of being social. Like, just friendly social. Just be nice, just talk, just be chatty without some kind of agenda, without, a transaction type of behavior. Like, I do this for you, you do this for me. Like, that kind of seems like the world we live in now, where everybody's kind of very transactionary. And it's like, no, man, I'm just doing this thing, and I'm this person, and if you want to be a part of it or come and tune in, that's kind of the world I wish was more like.
It's difficult because ultimately, you say to yourself, obviously right now for this endeavor in episode 4, we're putting the time, energy, and effort into it. But I mean, I think that there is a point where you go, all right, I don't think we'll ever lose the interest to sit down and chat and talk about things. But I think at some point you go, all right, is it worth whatever other investments coming along with it? And because I think when people are putting themselves out there, especially on platforms, I think that's ultimately the goal. And I see, people that you go, this person's never going to be in a video talking about whatever. And then they're out there doing it and you're like, it's so weird to see every single person. For someone like me, who's great at it.
Excellent. Yeah.
And I'm like, why would that car dealership put that person in their video? And then we're like, well, because number one, they don't have to pay that person to be in the video. And number two, that person really wants to be in the video. Everybody wants to be the star.
Nobody
And
wants to be the star.
and I get that. If you said to me, Mike, listen, there's gonna be a way you can make double your pay, you can make twice what you make today by not pursuing this type of thing that you're doing with entertainment and trying to be a star or something. I Unless the job was so revolting and so putrid that it would just turn your stomach, I really do think that I would think I would go, yeah, that makes a hell of a lot of sense, because while I thoroughly enjoy doing what I do, and I have to exist believing that I'm not only good at it, that I'm also very good at it. And you can't do what I do unless you think you're good at doing it. You can't go out there and lack the confidence. You have to be able to have confidence in doing it, which is really what I see as the biggest struggle for people.
Yeah.
But you also run out because you say, look at the entire field. It's not. And what people think is good. We could discuss this offline another time. But I think that because there's so many people that are not good, and that's what you get fed, I think over time, public's understanding or perception of what is good changes to what isn't good is good.
Everybody just kind of accepts mediocrity.
Yeah, because I'd swipe and I get, come with me on my next opportunity to go buy fucking vegetables over here. And it's a video with overlays. Today I had the opportunity to visit the new shopping center down on fucking 5th Street. Come along with me as I go to the stores with the thing. And it's that's 45 seconds of that, and it got 258 likes.
I love his voice. His voice is so great.
Yeah. And we're like, what in the world is this? And then I don't get it, and I don't want to get it. I'm happy. You know what I like? No, I really don't like anything about it, but I will tell you something that I kind of like about it a little bit, is that when 50, 100, 200 of those types of videos are in circulation, and what people see and what clients see and what business owners see and what restaurant owners see, and then when the big man walks through the door and lays it down in one take, Jack, then they go, holy God, wow. You don't understand. I'm telling you, that's what it is. When you stand next to a guy and they do the thing, and you just see them light up, they glow. They're like, something is happening right now, right here. This is happening. That creates that, because they're so used to seeing humdrum. They're so used to seeing the bottom. And when someone who's not the bottom comes, they're like, oh, wow, that was something.
This is what it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed. What have we been doing this whole time? This is what it's supposed to be. So I get it, man. I get it. I saw someone post this on social media. I'll let this be our last thing, and it really bothered me because they said self-preservation is self-care. And, I think that just really speaks volumes about the lack of care people are having for each other right now, and forgetting the strangers, forget everybody. It just seems like, yes, times are difficult, but what happened to two heads are better than one? What happened to I got your back, you get mine? What happened to let's do this together, because we all can't do everything ourselves,
Yeah, if I have an answer for that. I think that it all comes back to a group of people. When you get people together, they don't really understand what a team is or what a team is supposed to be. And that's what I found in my adult career life, is that if you get people together, and if you have 10 people and just one of them doesn't really understand what a team is, you're going to have some serious challenges in getting anything accomplished. If 2 of them don't get it, if 3 of them, the more the people in the group don't get what a team is, you're not going to be able to accomplish many things, because they are focused on blaming. They want to blame, if it succeeds, I want the credit. And if it fails, I want to blame somebody. And you're like, that's not a team. A team is, if one succeeds, we all succeed. If one fails, we all fail. So that's just one of the very many descriptions and definitions of what a team is. And I think you can say that sense of team, that sense of community, is dissipating in society.
People don't want to be attached to a sinking ship if that's what's happening, and then they feel like they can just, cop out. And I think, with that idea of a captain going down with the ship, or people just carrying through with something all the way. It's there's a level of honor and integrity, I think, that regardless if you try and fail, speaks volumes about people that just commit 100%.
When you said that, it made me think of a study I read about. They took there was a classroom with like 40 kids in it, and they brought 40 balloons in, and they wrote each student's name on one of the balloons, and then dropped them from the ceiling. And when they said, your job is to find the balloon with your name on it, no kid was able to find the balloon. Like, they're all running around haywire trying to find the balloon with their name on it. Nobody could find the balloon. 5 minutes passed. Nobody found their balloon. But when they changed the experiment and they said, whatever balloon you pick up, bring it to that person in the class, all the balloons were distributed in less than a minute.
Wow.
So it's a team. Nobody does it alone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking about not being alone, it's been a lot of fun spending some time with you. I feel towards the end of the episode was better towards the beginning of the episode. So work your editing magic and try to get us clips from the end, especially when I get very big and animated and waving my arms and so forth.
Of course.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Nuvee Club podcast. We're two guys. We like talking about movies. We love watching movies, but this isn't that. Well, it's just not only that. For Sanjay Singh, I'm Big Mike. See you next week, same time, at Nuvee Club on Instagram and at nukhu on YouTube and Spotify. That's nukhu, Nukhu. Enjoy your week.
Take care, everyone.